Hello everyone and welcome to the 2020 38th Annual Kansas City Wide Open presented by Discmania. I'm your host Scott and we are at Cliff Drive Disc Golf Course in Kansas City, Missouri, and we are getting ready to watch the round one coverage of this MP feature card. Hole 1 is a par 3 270-foot shot. There is OB to the left, and this is a great starting hole. It's not very long, but it definitely tests those nerves. If you want the opportunity for the two, you need to land flat near this basket. As you can see, there is a downward sloping green that can cost you even if you have a good drive. A lot of the shots that I had been watching as we prepared for this card were getting just slapped down. As you can see, CD's kind of dropped down a little bit. Even Kevin's dropping a little bit low. It's going to hit that bank and that hill. And as I was just saying, you can see that downward green, which is going to cause Kevin to roll down to the bottom of that hill. Mark Schmitz pulling that a little bit early. He's definitely nervous. He told me so, but he will be fine. He's going to recover just fine there. We do have Steiner, Kevin Babbit, Mark Schmitz, and I was Eddie McCulley on this card. Mark Schmitz, who's a local golfer, CD, who's been a local golfer as well, but been around for a very long time. Kevin, who's from Lawrence, Kansas, but has been a top contender for many years. I have been playing for over 20 years, and he was at the top of the game when I started. So, and you saw CD laying up, and you see Kevin giving a little bit of a run, but put it underneath there. But look at that flagged whip. During this round one here at Cliff Drive, these winds were upwards of 40 miles an hour. The front nine is pretty wooded, so even in the wood, you can see how much that wind is still being affected. But when we get into that back nine, as you'll see, it is wide open. Mark taking the bogey. Everybody else here should take a par. Yep, 3 evens, 1 bogey. I want to thank 300 Foot Arm for doing these drone coverages. So here we got hole 2, a par 3 202-foot shot. As you can see, the shot is over a valley. The basket sits at the top of that hill. There is a wall of trees that you need to kind of thread through, just like CD is doing right there. And he does it perfectly with the Park City hitting that thread. You don't want to go left or right. It can be in trouble. If you can stay somewhat in the middle, you can at least get your par. Eddie hitting an early tree, but it's going to drop him straight down. He'll still be into the middle of the fairway. Should have a routine up and down. Mark with the low turnover, hitting flat into the ground, rolling up the hill. A little bit of slide. Scared him for a second, but I will tell you, hole 1 played a .2 over par. Hole 2 here played .21 under par, and as you can see, that wind knocking Mark's putt down. Kevin with the soft down or nose down putt to get the birdie. Eddie slamming the putt in. And Mr. CD getting on the board as well. Kevin and CD with the birdies, 2 pars, as we go into hole 3. So hole 3 is a par 3 330-foot shot. It is a downhill. You need to follow this path. It is treacherous to the right. Count yourself at least a bogey if you go down to the right. Pretty much you want to hit this gap. If you stay in the path, you can get a par. If you want to go for the birdie, you got to hit that path aggressively. This hole is averaging nearly a half a stroke over par for this MP50 group on round 1. Looks like CD's not scared. Hitting that gap, going over the crest, getting the skip, downward skip, putting himself to about circle's edge. Kevin burning it down a little bit low, getting that hop, but the hop lands at an angle which is going to throw him to the right. He's going to stop at the edge, so not too much trouble, but making the birdie definitely a lot more difficult. Eddie's following the CD train. Pretty much same line. Looks like a hair bit shorter, right outside the circle, but a great shot nonetheless. Mark pulling that a little bit wide, but luckily it stayed in the fairway for him. Kevin obstructed, pretty much just laying up underneath. And Mark trying to give it a run, but low and right. Good left side for CD. He hasn't quite got that putt figured out yet, but Mr. McCulley does. Right side basket. In for the birdie. Mark's going to take his bogey to go to +2. A par for CD. A par for Kevin. -1, -1, +2, and -1 through hole 3. Hole 4 is a fun par 3, 230-foot hole that plays uphill. You can see that shelf to the left. There is OB to the right. If you turn it over too quick, you're down on that right. It is a tough recovery, but it is a tough turnover to land up on that shelf for the birdie opportunity. As you can see, Eddie turning it over a little bit quick, but luckily it dropped him without too much danger. CD hit the line perfectly, but just low. But that was the line he wanted. Kevin learned from that mistake, put it up higher. And look at that run right past the basket. Mr. Mark following a little bit higher. Near the same line. And almost hits the cameraman. Eddie with some awkward footing, throwing it a little bit high, hitting those trees, dropping down to that left side edge. Luckily it stops there, so he at least has a chance for the putt. And sails over the top. He's going to take a bogey. Mark tucked away into the woods. Like I said, he almost hit my cameraman who was standing right there. Mark with the downtown birdie putt. Right side chains in the basket to put him back to +1. CD being with a big elevated shot. Can't quite find the center of those poles. Hitting left side chains once again with the drop-in putt there for Mr. Kevin Babbit. This hole 4 was playing a .7 under par, so slightly under par. As we finish out here with a couple more pars, one more par from Mr. CD Steiner. Hole 5 is a treacherous par 3, 375 foot. It goes down. There are a lot of trees that requires a nearly dog leg downhill left shot or right to left shot. The basket then slightly goes uphill, tucked into these woods. This hole 6 ties for the hardest hole on the course, averaging nearly a full stroke over par, .93. It's the hardest hole along with hole 16 on the entire course for today, or for this round. It's a lot of trees they have to go through. And Kevin and Mark finding those trees. C's hitting the gap. That looks beautiful. And that was a beautiful shot. The spotter said that was one of the 2 best shots of the day on that course. Putting it right up near the circle's edge. And Eddie getting rejected by an early tree. You can see how treacherous this is still ahead of Eddie. A lot of trees, a lot of rolling elevation. That doesn't scare Eddie though. He aims right at my cameraman. Kevin Babbit ending out with the bogey. CD with the disappointing putt. Hasn't quite got that figured out just yet. CD, who's an excellent putter, definitely going to get it figured out. Finished out with a par there. A few more pars there as we finish out hole 5. Here we are going into hole 6. Hole 6 is an uphill shot. Par 3, 294-foot shot. Pretty much need to land straight to the top of the hill and then dog leg to the right. If you end up early, or if you end up hitting tree early, it's going to be a tough second shot. If you're in the woods to the right, it's going to be a tough second shot. Really, your only shot's to get to the top of the hill to secure yourself the easier 3. Otherwise, anything like that will make for a tough 3. I did say earlier, and I have a correction, that hole 5 played as the toughest hole in the course. I was wrong. I misread my notes. It's actually hole 6, along with hole 16, playing it nearly a stroke above par. Hole 5 actually only played a .05 over par. So even though hole 5 is still a very tough hole, but you can see as these gentlemen are all hitting these trees, making it for a tough shot. Eddie going over the top of the trees and squeaks out to the basket side of the fairway. Kevin spent some time trying to figure out what he wanted to do to be safe, and you can see how tough it still was for him. Hit the tree, roll back. CD and Kevin just throwing up to the fairway. Mr. Mark hitting the line, going deep. Kevin having to do a on his knees forehand putt and off the top of the basket. So close, so close. Eddie's wanting some of that, but he'll settle with just putting it underneath the basket. Eddie taking the bogey to put him to +1. CD the bogey to go to even. Mark with the save putt. He wanted that par putt from back in the woods there, but he's going to have to settle for the par to stay at +2. Kevin with the double bogey to put him to over at +1. Hole 7. Hole is a par 3, 387-foot tunnel shot. This requires a great backhand turnover shot or a controlled flick. You have to hit a line, and as you get closer to about 80 feet from the basket, you have to hit an even tighter line. If you are not centered with that line after your first shot, it definitely takes a good second shot, some type of scramble shot to recover. And Mark throwing it early, hits the tree, and it kicks OB to the road. That's what I'm talking about. A great slow, aiming right at my cameraman there, landing anywhere up in that area. It's going to give you an opportunity to at least get an up and down par. It's not going to really give you a birdie unless you can really find your way through. Eddie turning that a little bit quick. It's going to put him a little bit outside that opening that I was talking about. However, Kevin is throwing it like a dream, hitting that gap. As you can see, he will definitely have a putt for a 2 there. Mark, who elected just to rethrow with his stroke penalty instead of taking it all the way down to the road. Eddie just saying, the heck with it, threw it over the top with a little bit of a thumber or overhand pancake shot. Great run opportunity from CD with that forehand putter flick. Kevin with the birdie putt. Oh, and just low face mask. That would have been an awesome 2. Eddie also just low center pole. Double bogey for Mark on that left side chains. Put him to +4 for the round. Well, so far through hole 7. Well, CD's going to finish out with the par. Eddie's going to take that bogey as well. Put him at +2. Kevin's going to take the par as well. Hole 8's a 300-foot shot. There is road along the right. It is a pretty fairly routine open right to left hyzer, except right off the tee box, this elevated green that were elevated fairway comes up very close off the tee. It makes you want to throw higher. And then you need to come crashing into the woods. You can see right in front of CD how it rises. If you don't put nose up or get it high enough, you will slam into the side of the hill. If you put it up too high, you're going to fade out too early. These guys don't seem to mind though. These were hard shots to get from the green for my catch cam guy, but you can see that one coming in. So Eddie's going to have a putt. Mark coming in. Look at that roll away from the basket. He's definitely going to have a putt though. Beautiful. CD with an uphill putt for his 2. Pulls that to the right. Kevin getting the 2. Birdie putt. Put him back to even. Beautiful putt by Mark. Put him back to +3. These guys are going to have to settle for a par as we finish hole 8. Couple evens, a +3 and a +2. As we go into hole number 9. Hole 9, par 3, 384-foot shot. The low shot's protected by those rocks. You do not want to be over to the left. To the left is definitely a stroke, but pretty much keep it in the fairway. This basket's tucked between these 2 trees. It's kind of like the hole before. It requires a great low turnover shot with some kind of flexibility to fade out to get any kind of distance. Even Kevin, you can see it's a little bit nose down when it hits the ground or angled over, which is going to cause him to roll out. Mark definitely throwing that low, but over the rocks, same thing. He's going to kind of spin out to the middle. And CD with the beautiful flex shot, and boom, as CD would say, hashtag Blizzards fly far, and that was a crush. I think he even said that was one of his best drives ever on that hole. Eddie with the aggressive turnover hits the tree, kicks him over into the woods. Like I said, it's pretty thick over there. It required him just to do a forehand roller, which was beautifully executed for him to put him out into the middle. It's going to make for a super long par save. Mark giving it a run, a little bit high over the basket, but it looked pretty. Kevin pulling that a little bit more to the right than he wanted, probably a tad deeper than he wanted. Same with Eddie. Eddie a little bit low on that right side. When you get this kind of heavy wind, you're always trying to compensate for that wind, and sometimes it just doesn't do what you think the wind is going to do to it. Eddie off the back side of the face mask, trying to jam that in. You see the dust and wind coming right in front of that basket. How gusty this is. Mark's taking his time and just straight down. Wind knocks it straight down. Kevin's gets knocked down, hits the nubs on the basket to pop out. CD with that great drive is going to finish out that front 9 at even. Kevin's going to take his bogey, be a +1. Eddie's going to take a double bogey, finishing out the front 9 at +4. And Mark is going to finish out here at +4. That is the front 9 of our coverage of the 2020 Kansas City Wide Open. You're watching the MP50 group at Cliff Drive. We'll see you for the back 9.